The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Listen, the show is on. The real show. You guys have no idea what goes on. Welcome back. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. Coming up tonight, with population growth on the decline, more and more Bahamians feel access to the economic pie is slipping through their fingers now, as there is foreign competition in the beauty supply store business. When did this begin, we ask tonight? Well, we talk about it some more for you. And speaking of the decline in the population, what does it mean for the growth or lack thereof in the economy? And does it mean that Bahamians will be squeezed in even more? We talk about that in Hot Topics and in depth later tonight on what the shifts in population trends and growth mean for religion, the family, and the nation's future. And with hurricanes and weather systems getting stronger, Works Minister Clay Sweeting foreshadows even stronger building codes. It's all straight ahead tonight. This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Well, there was a certain business where Bahamians were synonymous to be the owners, like the beauty supply business that is still prominent around the island. But what's different now is that many of those businesses are experiencing less foot traffic and, by extension, less sales. It's because in recent time, there's been an introduction of what can only be described as the super beauty supply stores. You see one on your screen right there. Many of you reached out to Beyond the Headlines asking my team and I to look into this silent takeover, something that we weren't even paying attention to or were aware of, not until an overwhelming number of you decided to reach out to us and ask us to look into it. And so what's happening? When did this takeover begin? The bigger, well-stocked stores with everything under one roof, including clothing, are putting the smaller stores out of business. And so, what are Bahamians to do? Well, tonight we look at this industry and others that are experiencing the same thing. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines, contributors Leslie Miller and Glenroy Pratt. Gentlemen, good evening to both of you.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Bahamas.
Good evening, Judy. Good evening, Bahamas.
Gentlemen, you see, we will hear of other industries in a minute. It's nothing new that we've talked about. This one, though, is something that really sort of, I guess, developed without much attention being paid to it until people started reaching out and asking, do you all realize that now there's an increasing number of beauty supply stores that are foreign owned?
That's what I want to know.
That was stunning. That was stunning to find out. Gentlemen, what do you make of this sort of, I don't know, the shift that's happening right in front of us?
Well, obviously they're getting licenses. And so the question is, who's granting it?
Fronting, that's what you're talking about.
Or even how much more research is being done to find out how are you able to sustain this business when you do open it? Where did you get the funding from it? And what is the actual, involvement in your percentage of ownership in the business rather than just, as Mr. Miller is stating here, people are fronting. This is also a challenge in the used tire industry as well. We do have.
Well, let's stay right there for a moment. See, don't jump ahead. Let me tell you what it is, because my team took the time today to go out and look into it. And we were told, I don't know who's fronting. Yes, there are one or two that are fronting, but these are American-owned businesses where the people are operating here. They have a certain, the managers are also don't look Bahamian and don't speak with that Bahamian accent. Now the Bahamians work the floors and at times behind the cash register. What again is happening when Bahamians feel more and more that even something as simple as people look forward to opening a beauty supply store, or perhaps it's not quite as simple, but the point is there were many of them opening these stores and doing quite well, being able to
And
actually
being financed by the local banks too.
and be actually able to sort of say they have a business that they own and operate.
Yeah, I mean, and the reality is that you know, it has always been said in this country, you know, when you money, you know, money, what it is, money talks. And so the reality of it is that when somebody comes in with a large trunket of funds, their ability to do things is far greater than the person who is trying to go into the bank on a prayer, on a hope that he is actually having a good idea. I mean, and that's just the reality of it. And so when you have dollars competing against non-dollars, that's the reality of what happens. Then you have your own people that shadow the economy for growth and opportunities.
You know, this started happening 5 years ago when the former government set a new policy allowing foreigners to come in our country to compete with Bahamians with an investment of $250,000, if you all remember. Okay? And to make it worse, they also said that if you didn't get your approvals from immigration within 60 days, just bring the people in. I don't know what the PLP has done about that policy. That to me was a menace to our society, a small country like ours, with a $250,000 investment, which is nothing really. And that's probably a part of what is going on now. Now, what is more egregious than that is the fact that the government policy for the last 70, 80 years has always been the retail market is reserved exclusively for Bahamians. Exclusively for Bahamians. Again, the policy was changed by the previous administration to allow anyone to walk into this country with $250,000, give them status, and they can bring their people in on work permits. And in some cases, I guess after you make an investment, you can become a belonger. And it's just going to terrorize those small businesses in this country that cannot survive or sustain themselves due to the fact that the people who are coming here, they're going to get preferential treatment from the banks to begin with. Let's get that straight. Okay? They are of a different color, and what they're going to give to them, the trust they're going to put in them, with the products that they're going to be allowed to bring into this country. People wouldn't stand a chance to get that sort of credit worthiness from people within the United States of America. That needs to be looked into. The government has a responsibility to protect and preserve what is left of this place called the Bahamas in the retail sector. And hopefully they would do what is necessary to protect the interests of Bahamians.
But even to add to the point that Mr. Miller is referencing the former administration, I mean, and it also appears to me that even with the current administration that, you know, if there are opportunities that will come forward for Bahamians, even though you may have opportunities, the reality is that those opportunities are only in a small circle in itself. And so the challenge is that how do we get that economy to be widespread and not just specifically for special interest groups? But the fact is as well that when you look at the last, I mean, this current administration, right, or the last, under the PLP administration, we had a situation where how many Chinese were permitted to come inside the building that they did downtown?
In Bahama?
You know, no, not Bahama. I'm talking about the other one.
The Point.
You know, the Point. You know, and they were in breach of the contract, and yet it was allowed to continue. I mean, in hundreds that were not supposed to be a part of the deal, but apparently they were. And there were times that they were found to be on the site that they should not have been on the site. And so it just shows
and
you
then
that
sent back to the site.
Well, the problem was they were the leftovers from Bahama. They were still here waiting for the deal to consummate itself. It took a long time. They had nothing else to do, so the government didn't have a choice but to allow them to work.
But gentlemen, this really doesn't. We're going to shift in a minute to talk about the population decline, the morale, the hope, the aspirations of Bahamians are declining. This was something that happened, and I certainly wasn't aware. And to get several calls and sort of stopping in person, oh, by the way, can you please? This really speaks to a set of people who feel dejected, who feel almost in a way economically depressed. Because here they are trying to make their way. They too want a piece of the pie, not to have to be clocking into a 9 to 5 every day, but to be able to say, listen, this is what I own, this is what I'm building for legacy, to help my family and to sort of build a family and legacy wealth, but to almost kind of, again, be squeezed out. You cannot compete when you look inside of a store like the one we saw the outside of just now. You cannot, those that are still exist and are just open for open sake, cannot compete.
Well, you can't compete. I mean, and the fact is, though, is also the population. I mean, you can't compete when you get cheaper prices, and considering the economy for what it is, you know, people are finding it very difficult to survive. So wherever they could save a buck or two, that's where they're going to go. And so when you're looking at that, that is where the issue is.
Yes, listen, so Glenroy, talk about this. We're going to shift now to talk about, it's not just the beauty supply industry, which is a huge business. We know the trends of women and the fact that women love all things beauty, whether it be lashes, whether it be skin creams and hair and just so many things. In fact, there are new things that they're adding that makes it all the more enticing. I was discussing with a few reporters before we came on air, and they said, listen, you know, it does pull you in, because when you look in a corner, there's clothes. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, where are we going to go with this, and when and sort of what are the parameters in which these people can operate? And it was a silly policy, as you referenced, Leslie, to go and have sort of foreigners compete
the retail
on
market
every
is
level.
Preserved for Bahamians.
Exactly, on every level, where Bahamians now feel as though, okay, what now?
And you got Bahamian front for these people in many cases. Mm-hmm. Most of them are fronting. I give you an example. The auto place on Howard Road, next to City Meat, that's been demolished now, and Sebastian has put up a wonderful car lot. The guy next door, the securities commissioner, to come down and really put the hammer on these two guys out of New York. They only had a little black fella fronting, okay? And he's gone now. There's a couple of cars there. But where Bahamians have the wherewithal to go to these businesses, why do you need to lower your standards to allow people to come in here with $250,000 and wipe out your small middle class that you have in this country?
Because, as you said, they are treated more favorably at the bank.
Yes, they are. For all the financial institutions.
Exactly. So, the regular Bahamian who wants to go and pull up to a bank, they have to walk from here to Africa and back, and then walk back again.
All your children too.
That part. Okay.
And your grandchildren.
But
I still say equally though. I mean, and obviously we have that foreign element that has a part of playing a role in the demise of our economy. But we also have our people in government also playing helping the demise of the economy as well when it comes to the ordinary Bahamians.
Yeah, the voice.
You know, some people are so gravelicious, as we use the Bahamian colloquial phrase, is that they are taking all the business for themselves and shutting out Bahamians from the opportunities.
And Glenroy, that is the vexing part as well, to see, and nobody resents another person's hard work and wealth and what they've achieved. But when you've done that to the point, or when you continue to do that and figure, be happy with what you have. You have a job, right? You have a little income, be happy. You only know what to do with money anyway, be happy. And it's the same people over and over and over again beginning to have opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and you feel that no one else is worth it.
That's when you have people who are monopolizing the wealth in the country, and what ends up happening is the people feel shut out, and especially when you have going to the point that you will go do so on, is when you have the population start to decrease, you find that same people are paying the price for it as well. So there are so many different avenues and aspects of this whole economy that is actually hurting the Bahamian people. But the whole truth is that there needs to be equitable distribution of resources to the point where people could find themselves with opportunities that prevail and that they could be able to sustain themselves. But far too often they are crippled by the fact of greed. They're crippled by the fact that people have no interest in them. They're crippled by the fact that their dreams and aspirations are looked down upon. They're crippled by the fact that the Bahamian people are not being motivated enough. The educational system doesn't support their growth and development. We just have so many challenges right now in this country that could be elevated, but it takes people who have a heart for people and an interest in people to change it.
It absolutely takes real leadership and vision. Yes, Leslie.
The greater threat we have is the fact that these government institutions, Ministry of Works, BTC, BEC, all of them put together, water and sewage. The people who work for them make it a point to try to run Bahamians out of business, especially those who work in the local sector, where we do local manufacturing. None of them support anything local. They collude with the white boys on the foreign goods to get rid of Bahamians. I've seen so many of that happen over the last 43 years being in business. It makes no sense for Bahamians to think.
But Leslie, you don't think that? So Leslie, I need to ask you. I must. You don't think that is changing, Leslie?
This is the worst I've ever seen.
BAIC cannot come on the show.
BAIC to go to hell. I talk about real stuff. I ain't talking about jokes like them guys.
Listen to me, Leslie. Leslie, they are trying to build something.
Damn good tomato.
Leslie, they are trying to build something where Bahamians have a market and a marketplace.
That they keep talking about. These guys have no inkling what it takes to run an egg farm. That's a pie in the sky. It's a joke. Okay? The former chairman, he was going to produce, 9 millionaires. You know how tough that industry is? We had a farm, you know. I used to work with Hatchet Bay Plantation. The government bought the Harrisville Plantation in 1974. And we run that for about 6 years out of Hatchet Bay, Eleuthera. Okay? That is a tough industry. When you can buy poultry in Florida and Georgia.
Yes.
Right? For 19 cents a pound for chicken legs. And you got to get it here for $1.50. You talk about competition? And it's go by the scale of the magnitude of your farm. These guys talk about little man-pa places. It'll never survive. They need to start building the hopes when they know that they themselves. See, the problem I have with the government, you know. The government, members of parliament, don't support local industry. The Bahamians has never supported, 90% of them, never supported local industry. If it don't come from over that bar, it ain't no good. Because we are incapable of producing anything of quality, and that's what is killing us as a people, especially as a black people.
Because we don't support ourselves and believe in ourselves.
They don't ever support each other. That's why the Haitians is going to take us over in 50 years. You don't have to worry about them. That's why the Chinese is on the top tier economically. Anyone who comes to this country do better than us.
So you see the Indians own Bay Street.
They own Bay Street now with the Jubilee store. Why? They support each other. It's only the black Bahamians who carry this crab syndrome. They want to pull you down. And before they let you on that box, they'll take your leg off.
Leslie,
okay?
You know, no,
we can't help it.
It's a sobering discussion that must be had. Because when we talk about population, when we talk about population decline, the recent results, for example, from the Bahamas 2022 census shows that the population is not growing. No. In fact, the average,
foreigners growing up. They should making babies.
But they have children a couple times a year.
They ain't sitting down.
Listen to me. Listen. And in fact, it shows that the annual, the who?
The Cubans. You don't know the amount of Cubans in this country, you know.
Cubans.
Go in the food store opposite UB. Go there any day of the week, and you'll find 10 of them walking around picking up their stuff. Go in there. Go in these places over the hill where you think they're not there.
They're women or they're men?
Women. Right? But they are here. And they're getting pregnant too.
You know, but let's talk about why Bahamians are not marrying.
Yeah.
Are not getting pregnant.
There's a dramatic decrease in marriage.
Let me tell you, the last 12 years, Leslie, but let me read first. But that's another thing, y'all can't stay together. What happened?
I try to stay with you, but y'all is dumb to watch.
That's a doggone lie. First of all, y'all flipping your eye, wondering too much. See, you know what it is? Leslie, you know why, Leslie? Because you're a pot cake.
That's y'all don't like pot cake.
No.
But at least we can be there for you. We can be there.
And for who else?
When push comes to shove, we can be there for all of you.
Leslie, for all, who are you? Anybody want? See, that's what y'all too common. Dollar bills, these men.
Dollar bills? The love that you got in your heart.
Lord, what is this?
Listen to me.
Right here, see it here?
In 2010,
right there.
Leslie, be quiet. In 2010, when the last census was conducted, the population was 351,461 people. In 2022, the population was 398,165 people. Now, there's so much to discuss as it relates to these numbers. For example, how concerned should we be? We talk about the fact that industries are being overtaken by foreigners, but we will pick it up in a minute, right after this break. We'll talk about that, and also stronger building codes for stronger storms. It's all coming up right after this break.
Y'all will have one.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now City of Hope, creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. And more options means more hope. Call now to get more of the care you need.
On behalf of the entire flight crew and Western Air, we hope that you enjoyed your flight and we look forward to serving you in the near future.
Get ready to win Lucky Bucks. Wherever you see this taxi, flag it down.
The boy hard, beating so hard, I will be hard. I'm looking for my first contestant to ride in the Lucky Taxi. Walk in the taxi, you got to do the Lucky Walk. Oh. Thanks. Man, thank you, sir. 85 times 2 is how much, brother? You only win $170, brother.
I never expected to win as much as I win.
Bang along. Very excited when the gentleman picked me to ride inside the taxi.
So if I had to choose a game that would stay, it would be Island of Taxi.
You could be next on the Island Lucky Taxi.
You wouldn't believe that number I just played, dropping quick 4. This 5K can come in clutch, my boy.
So you ain't had the mega ball on that?
You know mega ball on quick 4, my man.
Oh, okay then.
Mega Ball, now available on Quick 4. Multiply your winnings with the only 4-ball game that pays $20,000. With a draw every 30 minutes, your chances to win are mega.
I bet you I could beat you running into this long ball.
I bet you my drink will come up before yours. Well.
I bet you I could hold my breath longer.
Bet.
Hey, wait.
If it can happen, you can bet it. So why not bet with us? The Bahamas' #1 online casino, lottery, and sportsbook. We bet you won't find bigger payouts anywhere else but islandluck.com. Winners live here.
Looking for that perfect carpet happy hour experience? Forge connections, fuel success, and feel the beat. Join 103.5 The Beat each and every Friday at Club Waterloo. RSVP now, limited spots available.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. We were talking, of course, just before the break about the population, the drop in population. You saw the numbers. I read them just before we went to the break. Something to be concerned about. We're going to jump right back in right now. Leslie Miller, Glenroy Pratt, both here. Gentlemen, how concerning is that?
It's very concerning. Obviously, it's concerning for many different reasons.
I tell you.
You know, one of the things that I often talk about is the fact, let's look at retirement as an example, right? If the population gets older and we don't have any children, what happens is there's nobody contributing to the pension plans of the people who are older.
being the rest.
The cycle continues, and then we have a decreasing scenario of opportunities for younger people, so they're not even getting the kind of jobs that will help even sustain those type of funding that needs to happen. And so we have a crisis on our hands. And then the other side of it is when you have that situation at play, then you have certain services that needs to be rendered. And what happens is people will now seek foreign labor to get those services done, but then it's going to be cheap labor. And when you get cheap labor,
no such thing
sometimes
as cheap
it's
labor,
under-
sir. Please, don't use that term.
Or you get
It's not fair.
Well, you got
use
labor,
that term.
or you get labor in the country that is actually not contributing to the things that they should be contributing to. So you have this underground economy where people are not paying national insurance
Exactly.
and all this other stuff,
Exactly.
and so that caused another set of challenges. So right now, it's so many different issues that we have at play. And then the other reality is if we have a consistent influx of individuals with the current population not increasing and a consistent influx, what you think is going to happen?
They're going to phase them out.
That's
Phase
exactly
out
what's going to happen.
the indigenous
The
ones.
second largest island, and I'll finish this with this point,
Yeah.
the second island that is
Largest
that has the largest population right now is Abaco. I wonder why.
Think about it, y'all.
And you know the majority there, right? But you know, what is so important that we're missing out on, you know? When your country is controlled, your workforce, it's like the guys who are there in Arawaki, they control our lives, you know, because they determine how much we pay for the shipment coming in here. And of course, they give their buddies a better price than they would give you or me because of the color of your skin. But in the Bahamas today, in the construction industry, 65 to 70% of the workforce are foreigners.
Yeah.
You got to understand that. Okay? In all the blue collar, who cuts our yard? You don't see no Bahamians. Who cleans the pool?
Wait, well then, Leslie, where are the Bahamians?
They on the damn blocks where they always are. But we got to force them to get a trade. We got to build a proper trade school to trade our people, to train our people.
Leslie,
That's men and women.
I gave you several shows to talk
Yes.
about this trade school idea. Why hasn't it come into
I'm still
fruition?
trying to convince the brothers to look at something.
You use
positive,
Obama
okay?
with the brothers. Listen to me, y'all.
I'm still trying to convince them.
Yeah, why aren't Bahamians getting married? Let's start right there. Should there be a tax incentive, some sort of incentive to say, listen, legitimize your relationship, have more kids? Should that be sort of something to think about and put on the table?
Well, in Japan, they had a crisis, and they still pretty much on this one-child policy, even in China. Well, Japan, for example, their population is decreasing as well.
They got a terrible problem.
And so they're in a serious crisis right now as well.
Very serious.
And so what they even been doing is trying to incentivize people to get married and go home and have babies and all this other stuff and the likes. But then what happens in this country is that, you know, it's very difficult for a young married couple to go and get started to say, for one, get a piece of land, to get a house,
Let's
and all
talk
this other
about it,
stuff.
because then there's the
It's
property,
almost
there's the cost of
It's-
housing.
Listen,
reach?
it's astronomical.
But then, but
I mean, and that's a
gentlemen-
basic house. This ain't no big time house.
Right.
Go with a three-bedroom, too bad.
And that costing you right now, that probably cost you about 200 and something
At
thousand
least
dollars.
250,000.
And-
The
and-
government homes start at 220.
Imagine that.
So where the hell you can get this money from?
And then you're talking about...
And you got a government job.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh? Where you get it from?
We are overpriced, and listen, we have a challenge in this country.
Okay.
And so when people add it up, they ask themselves, why should I get married? And then at the same time, when they do get married, they find themselves fighting over, you know what most of the things they fight over?
Money.
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 Because
Who
it's
making more
hard to
than who?
live.
Who
It's
making
hard to
more
live.
than who?
Not
Turn that
making-
air conditioner off. Which you mean,
Yeah,
what?
not
I got
making-
this or that, the next thing. So what
Very
you see
simple.
gonna happen? This is where you go to the food store, man, you spend this on that. I tell you, don't spend it on this. Or you gambling,
What kind of car
trying to
you
make
want
money.
drive?
Listen, it's a
My
challenge.
wife want a luxury car like what she see her friends driving. So
Luxury.
you got to go buy the luxury car. But you can't afford it.
I don't know, gentlemen, where this nation has gone wrong,
We
where,
head straight to hell.
where the leaders in the last 15, 20 years have gone wrong. They have not steered this nation in the direction it needs to go. For growth of individual income, savings. I was speaking with a friend just before we went on air. And to hear that, of course, he lives in the United States, it's an unfair comparison. Yet still, though, this is a nation where if we are welcoming minimum 12 million tourists by the end of this calendar year, we should be able to have more than one stream of income. And that should be nice and healthy and robust. Why is it that we are not accessing, not being able to hold, not being able to access the wonderful properties?
We cannot hold it because it's a mirage. Who own the hotel industry? Does anybody know?
Foreigners.
No.
Foreigners.
Say the hotel industry.
Yeah.
The hotels are owned by foreigners. The hotels are run by foreigners. The hotel paychecks come out of Miami, by and large. Most of the hotels here, the checks come out of Miami. Listen, that's why we have to diversify. Tourism cannot sustain us by no stretch of the imagination. We got to diversify and expand our base into import substitution entities. Once we get Bahamians to appreciate that we are capable of producing products of quality.
A part of it too is that government.
And the government got to be the ones to start it.
The government's also, in terms of policy back in the day, I think had made some bad policy decisions, right? When you give crown land to businesses that want to build and have these big 100, 200 acres. So what you really need to have happen, if you're going to grant crown land and say, listen, you're going to have a business, then the government should have a stake in that business. You shouldn't give that land without having a big stake in that. Employment is one thing. Yes, it can't be just.
That used to be the case. You
have to give us. Well,
it was. But Ms. Ingram broke that. For Bahama.
Well, that's what it said, right?
Okay.
But then I see.
That's a fact.
But then I see people in the current administration and benefiting from it as well. But the point, the overall arching point, though, is that when government made those decisions, we could have studied other countries like the Dubai model, right? You're not going to own this land. We're going to partnership with you in business, whereas we get a percentage in our coffers. But it also has to be to a point where government have to be responsible with the spending habits as well.
But it's almost the third world nations and governments act very desperate and just happy to have the people come knocking on your doors.
That's our problem.
That is the issue.
Listen,
that is the issue.
I can tell you the situation when they were putting up, or looking to put up, the addition to Paradise Island. Largest consulting firm in the world came here. Said, listen, if Kersner don't go to phase 3, Wall Street is going to bankrupt him. He got to expand to survive. You don't need to give him not one single incentive. He has no choice. The Bahamas is the only country in this region, you know, that give these guys $1 billion. $12 million each for Bahama as well as Atlantis for their promotion. What you say on TV? We paying for that, you know. The Treasury paying for that. But the guys sit with us and you'll have a meeting. I was in cabinet. And after the meeting, you say, well, listen, man, we can't give him this. The man said, don't give him that. And a couple of months go by. Next thing you see, the damn fella starting the project. He get everything what he wants. It's a gimmick. They know that Bahamians like numbers. So the man said, I'm going to hire 4,000 Bahamians. 4,000, how much? Yeah, that blow your mind.
And
you only hire 2,000.
And these are menial jobs that people are barely eking by.
But that ain't the biggest.
It's a game, and we fall for it every single time.
But a part of the problem, though, is when you see these situations that we say we fall for, is that when you see the people who are in government benefiting from it when the deal is signed.
You're right.
Because then they're the ones who have the businesses as well in these establishments.
They're the ones. And so it's very intentional. No, we are benefiting.
I would say few of them, to be fair.
Right.
Few of them would benefit, less than 1% of what we're talking about. Very few Bahamians who would have been in government, a member of parliament or a cabinet minister, got any involvement in any stores, in any hotel in this country.
It don't just have to be a hotel.
Whatever
it can be any major investment, for example. If I know that there's going to be a big establishment coming down the road, down the line, as a politician, I can buy the land next to it to ensure that when that now comes into play,
where these black people get money from to buy the land? What are you talking about?
A lot of times, listen.
They're accumulating.
Listen, a lot of
I know of none that has done that. Not one I know.
A lot of politicians in this country.
I want to get to this very quickly because this is quite important as well. We see the flooding just happened with Hurricane Oscar. Thank God there was not much more substantial damage than that, but we see what's happening. We see just the trauma still happening in parts of the United States, and we pray, of course, to continue to be safe this hurricane season and elsewhere as well. I know, elsewhere as well. Well, here's good news. There are new building codes on tap for the country, as well as a revision of the Contractors Act. We know we need that. Minister of Works and Family Island Affairs, Clay Sweeting, announced today that the country's new building code would be fully implemented by the third quarter of 2025, with the amendments going out for public consultation as soon as the beginning of next year.
Shanty towns could stop doing that. Because, I mean, we currently get building codes that we don't follow now.
Do we have the SOT, gentlemen?
You know, but listen. But what's going to happen too is that So
the Building Regulation Act, third-party inspector, a proposed amendment will introduce independent inspectors, registered architects, and engineers to assist with inspections. This will allow for more flexibility in inspection times, including after hours and weekends, benefiting developers and ensuring that construction is done much quickly. This initiative is currently under review by the AG's office. So both of those are working simultaneously. One of those, the building codes, is further than the other, but we're also looking at that as well. I don't have a timeline on that, but I know that the Building Contractors Association has been leveraging to ensure that we get moving on that. So we are looking at that, and hopefully we'll be able to set a timeline on that shortly.
Of course, you saw Speeding there speaking at today's news conference at the weekly press briefing at the office of the Prime Minister. Gentlemen, good news, but already you all say, listen, Clay, we hear you, we welcome it, it's necessary, but what, Glenroy?
Yeah, it's going to cost people more money. For houses, especially if the building codes become much more strengthened, that means you have to have much more stronger products to sustain that house in the midst of a catastrophic storm. And so that costs more money. And so when you're really scrapping now to build a house on the current cost, now you're taking that cost up even further. I mean, and obviously you need this scenario of which we have to protect ourselves. It's very important. But here's a challenge though. I mean, in a country of our size, if we're seeing these Category 5 storms that we've been seeing of late, and in America, Floridians were asked to evacuate, and they had almost the amount of people that live in the Bahamas evacuating one side of Florida.
That's right.
If we are asked to evacuate, where in the world are we going? And so that is our challenge. So we have a Category 5 storm coming to the Bahamas. We have to figure something out. We need to have some major structures in place, in my view, that sustains us in the midst of such things, whether we build them in different islands, so that we can have something that we can move to back and forth and that type of thing, so that we can protect ourselves. But we need to really start to consider these things. When again, I say this as well, we need to, going back to the trade school, every single citizen should have an opportunity to be developing, to do how to do plumbing, carpentry, electrical, all these things. Because if we have a catastrophic disaster, we can be relying on others to come in our country, and we don't need that. We need our own people to kick in gear and do what they need to do.
Listen, I think first and foremost, we need to thank the current Minister of Works for a job well done. He has demolished over 500 homes that were legally constructed. You got to give him credit for that. He's done a wonderful job, but the cost is going to skyrocket. I think we really need to look at keeping people away from the waterfront and those low-lying areas. You can't let them build in an area that's going to flood. Like, for example, down in Pinewood. You know, those people went through the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
What they've been going through for years.
How long? Over what? Over 40 years.
Listen, man. People just so tired of Pinewood and the doggone lake that happens when it rains for a minute.
When is it going to get corrected?
Again, people who are financially vulnerable being taken advantage of all over again. Yes. Every time there's a storm, every time there's some rain, etc. It's unfair. And so any development in the future has to take into consideration exactly whether it's swampland, whether it's prone to flooding, build the land up and stop treating people the way that they have been treated, especially those in Pinewood for so many years.
You treat yourself and your family instead of treating them like animals. Okay, without a conscience. What those people go through.
Leslie Miller, Glenroy Pratt, thank you both so much. We're gonna look further into this population decline. It is said that people are leaving. It says that people are moving away from the traditional religions and going to those non-denominational churches. What does that say? Matter of fact, how much people is going to church though? Let's talk about that. We're going to talk about a whole lot about the numbers when we come back here on Beyond the Headlines.
Why this car break up? This car dirty and the car place right break off short and there's 0 down.
At Montague Motors, we offer a wide variety of vehicles for an affordable price.
Man, look at you, man. This is a brand new car. You can't talk to you no more.
Montague Motors is located on Village Road North, just before the Shirley Street stoplight.
Are you ready? Keep the vibe alive. Music group, along with Alpha Sounds, present the best of the best. Rake and Scrape Explosion Reloaded. This is the biggest one-day all-Bahamian concert of the year. Featuring KB, D-Mac, Abby, Mama D, Fan Sean, Shine 242, The Falcon, and more. Mark your calendars. It's going down November the 2nd at Super Club Races Ground. Tickets now available at BahamasEtickets.com or both Beauty Shack locations. General admission $60. VIP, Skybox, and Skypods also available. For more info, call 394-0819 or email keepthevibealive242@gmail.com. Experience the magic once again with more legends for one night only. Come party with us November 2nd at Best of the Best. Rake and Scrape Explosion Reloaded.
Edenwell has expanded their testing menu. We now offer blood work, drug screening, and so much more. Our hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., located on 11 Madera Street. We are here for all of your laboratory needs, with fast and reliable lab work done by our friendly and knowledgeable staff. Let us help you.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience, with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
Welcome back. Listen, we are back live. You know what? Good for you all behind there. Good for, let me tell you who is good for. Justin, Chance, Carlisle, Shadi, you as well. You know why? There is no floor director here. I'm the floor director and the host. Now let's move on. Now, you all be quiet, please. Discuss the U.S. election when we're done.
My God.
Now let's just get right back into this show. Listen, we are going to jump right in right now as we continue to look at something that's very serious. In fact, several countries around the world are sort of grappling with what to do. The U.S. isn't among them, but certainly the Bahamas, we know Barbados recently talked about it, and many other countries, the fact that the numbers of their, I guess, indigenous citizens are dwindling. In the Bahamas, we saw our population decrease. And so what is it that we must do? What does this show for the House of Faith? What does this show for people's habits when it comes to faith? What does it show for the fact that marriage appears to be for quite a number not to be desirable? What is the church's role in that? And that sort of mindset, we are going to jump right in right now. Please welcome Pastors Patrice Smith and Carol Moss. Ladies, good evening to both of you. Welcome to Be on the Headlines.
Good evening. Good evening. Good to be here. Good to be here. Good evening, Bahamas.
Good evening, Shanique. Yes.
As I asked the gentlemen before you, Leslie and Glenroy, how concerning is this decrease in population to both of you?
Very, very concerning, Shanique. And in particular, and I don't think Leslie and Glenroy wanted to really address the elephant in the room. They alluded to it, but I want to specifically make mention of it so that Bahamians can be fully aware of what's happening here. Glenroy made a point where he said that the second island that's growing the fastest next to Nassau is the island of Abaco. Now, we all know exactly what's happening in Abaco. It's no use we be an ostrich and put our head in the sand. We know that Abaco has a huge Haitian population. And I would not be fool enough to say all of them are straight or all of them are Bahamians. And so therefore, real indigenous or what we call organic Bahamians now have to begin to step up to the plate. We have to begin to realize that in order for us to keep our country alive, yeah, Leslie, you didn't want to talk about it, but in order for us to keep our country alive, and in order for us Bahamians to remain indigenous to this nation, we have to produce. Because anything that does not produce brings about genocide. And so therefore Bahamians must understand genocide is not just Idi Amin and the rest of them killing people. Genocide is also people who refuse to reproduce. And so therefore Bahamians now must get to step in, if I can use that term. Shanique, I'm 60 years old. If you see me was younger, my God, and Leslie was available, I probably would have another child or two.
But I'll tell you
but
this.
nonetheless.
But listen, Pastor Patrice, let me tell you this. I saw on the internet a woman at 64 years old pregnant. Yeah. So you could still make your contribution to the Bahamas because women are becoming women I'm officially tied off. But Leslie's in the room, y'all. That's why I said that. Let's make a contribution. But we must, in particular, Bahamian married couples. This amazes me. You know, I was counseling a couple the other day as a pastor, and I was counseling them the other day because, you know, they're having some issues. And one of the issues that they were having, believe it or not, and this is oxymoron to me. One of the issues, believe it or not, was that the man, the father or the husband wanted more children and the wife didn't. What did you get married for? Because the Bible says in the very beginning that God created them male and female, and then he gave them instructions. The mandate was to be fruitful and to multiply and to replenish the earth. I'll tell you what perhaps the issue was. And Pastor Carol, you could join in. Yeah. Let me tell you, see, a woman was looking more sensibly at it. If you see that don't let them be renting. Do they have their own home? Right. The cost of living is wild in the Bahamas. Right. Yes. So perhaps her thing was, it'll be good to have another kid, but how are we going to afford it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the government, before Carol says something, the government has to partner with families, man. Yeah. The government has to take a greater role in helping to subsidize. And I'm going to say this. The government has to take a greater role in helping to subsidize the continuation of the Bahamas. Right. Other than that, we ain't going to have no Bahamas. We're going to have Haiti that took over the Bahamas, and they'll probably change the Bahamas to not. Let's just be real up in here. And so we got to get to the point. We mentioned that Japan and China, most certainly, they are also seeing declines. But now the government is stepping in to help. They're stepping in to reduce the work time so that families can spend more time together. So the government, man, come on, man, y'all. Y'all got to step in and help. I mean, even if it means, and I'm not trying to encourage laziness, but even if it means that they are for those who choose to be productive, even if you say to the population, in particular married people, because we don't need too much illegitimacy running around the place, but married people, if you say to them, if you are willing to have an additional child, we will give you this. And so therefore, if we don't deal with this problem, this is a serious problem. And if we don't deal with it, we're going to suffer.
Let me hear Carol.
I think I want to make this round off. I think that the devil is really working the church and he's working the family. Because in the beginning was a man and a woman. It means a husband and wife, and then family. I think there is a dysfunction. So what Satan does is he goes after the woman, there's dysfunction there. He goes after the man, there's dysfunction there. And so we're creating dysfunctional children. This is where murders are coming from. And then because the families are being attacked, right? This is where the trans is coming from. So that's how come this trans family is trying to come in to the Bahamas. Why? Because they see some loophole where there's a dysfunction.
So you're trying to say even that thought or idea is a part of population decline. Remember, ladies, just recently, a handful of years ago, Bill Gates and others were leading this movement that there are too many people in the earth, on the earth. I think it's now about 7-8 billion people. They figured that's too much. So they were discouraging reproduction. So now all of a sudden, because populations are dwindling, they are now concerned anew and say, hey, wait a minute, what y'all doing? But pushing this agenda.
So the problem is a lot of people are gay. A lot of people are lesbians and a lot of people are homosexuals. And so the decline is coming in. This is a diabolical attack now because to decrease the family. And then what to do is distract the church. And so instead of being focused on the families, the husband, the wife, the children, be more into arts, entertainment, be more into the wrong things. And so he don't mind the church being distracted. And so we have to come in now and target what's going on. There's a trans family that's now rising up in this country. And no use we may pay the element trans culture. Yeah, the trans culture is coming in on this island. Why? Because it's a secret society, Shanique, that's happening. And so that's why there's a decline in having children, not just also the economic decline. So because the women say, okay, we can't afford it, and also they want to be successful, and kids can be some type of a throwback for them. So now we must get back to the first drawing board and target the family.
Well, ladies,
the church must rise.
You both had churches. What are you doing to not just be on the pulpit screaming at people and causing people to do cartwheels in the church? What are you doing? What are you doing when it comes to addressing family affairs in the church? Bringing and having wonderful sort of teachings about what it is to love and what it is to have beautiful relationships between husband and wives, so that this reproduction can happen.
I want to answer that first.
Go ahead.
I want to say that we must be intentional, because in our church, because there's marriages there, I'm intentional with marriage. I'm intentional with watching them. I'm intentional who they talk to. I'm intentional with the single women. We now must be intentional in protecting the covenant in which God gave us. And so because of the church being so distracted, this is why the enemy is targeting the family. And so I believe now, as Prophet is going to speak, we must be intentional in guarding the family structure in which God has called. And so you can
Shanique,
answer that.
I want to take that also from another. I want to piggyback a little bit about what Carol was talking about. I'm sorry, Pastor Carol, when she was talking about the transgender movement.
Yeah.
And the transgender movement is a complete affront to reproduction. The transgender, and in particular, the homosexual LGBTQ community is an affront to reproduction.
And fraud.
If you ask me, that is subtle genocide.
Yeah.
Because you got to understand there is complete sterility. The minute you become a part of the LGBTQ community, there is complete sterility, in particular with transgenders. And so therefore, from the world's perspective, this is something that we should not be promoting. We should be trying to shut down. Yeah. Because to me, it is subtle genocide. But I want to go now to the church, because the church has to take some bearing here and some responsibility. Now, we got to look at this. When I looked at this the other day, it was shocking to me. And I look at some statistics. And the statistics said that divorce in the church is equal to, and in some countries surpasses, that of the world. That is a serious indictment on the church.
Why are Christian marriages working out?
Yes. Christian marriages are not working out for two reasons. Simply because the very first reason is that we have gotten so attached to the systems of the world where we have ignored the biblical references to marriage. There's only two reasons in the Bible that divorce could take place. Now, Christians are now divorcing for irreconcilable differences. I don't know where in the Bible you saw that. The only thing that the Bible gives permission for is most certainly infidelity, fornication, adultery, and then abandonment. So the church we have now logged on to the world, and we are now in agreement with the world, and we are now putting our marriages aside the way the world is doing it. And so what we're doing is now listening to the world instead of following the word.
accepted.
Yes, and it's being accepted. Also, you have pastors in this country, and I'm going to say it because it is true. You have pastors in this country that are sweethearting members in their church. They are married. They are married. Now, Leslie's saying all of them. I don't agree that, Leslie. There are pastors in this country that are sweethearting members in the church, and in most cases,
but are they having sex with their wives if they're sweethearting the
it doesn't matter, some are and some are not. There are pastors in this. There are pastors in this country where them and their spouse, wife and husband, don't even sleep in the same room. And so well, definitely that's a part of it. But the point I'm trying to make is the church is just as guilty. We are just as guilty as it pertains to divorce as the world, because we are supposed to be the example.
And see, that's what I was about to say.
And we are not being that example that we should be.
It's not coming from where it should.
Absolutely.
And that is why, let's talk about what the census also shows, that Bahamians are no longer attracted to the traditional church. They prefer non-denominational or bedside Baptist.
Yeah, because I guess what they see. But they're going to be, Shanique, God is going to raise up a new set of people.
Well,
and these
procreating.
It's going to start because, but they're going to make babies. But the problem is we got to start putting things in place. And so if we can rise up and start speaking against sin, start speaking against adulteries, start speaking against these homosexuals, start speaking against the trans family, start speaking against all this trauma.
Let's start speaking against pastors.
Let's start speaking against. Let's start speaking against these things.
You know what the people saying? You all keep talking about the trans to this to that. Address the church. The church is the biggest turnoff there is. If pastors out there can't keep their zips up, their zips up and up and down, swinging left, right, and center with every woman in the pew, in the church, then that's the issue.
But the problem is too is the reason why we're keeping these spirits there, because the people know what the people doing and they're still allowing this. So while we talking, we know what our pastor doing and we still staying in the congregation. So we just as guilty. We just as guilty. But I do believe now that as we are talking these things, we're going to bring the family structure back into the church. And it's going to happen. But we must target certain things.
Yes, and the church also must become practical, Shanique. We must become practical, most certainly. And this is what's turning a lot of the young people away from the church.
Yes.
Because we are using the term. We are too spiritually, what's that?
We are
too spiritually minded,
that you have no earthly good.
No earthly good. So there are some churches that are contributing to divorces. How could you possibly have an effective family when you have church 6 days a week? How could you possibly have healthy families and healthy marriages when the women are required to come to church Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night? How could we cultivate healthy marriages and healthy families when the church is contributing to the problem? So we have to now become practical. Listen, God, before he even established the church, he established the family, and it wasn't the children, it was Adam and Eve. Right. And so therefore pastors now have to begin to tell their members, listen, your marriage is more important than this church. Your family is more important than this church.
I don't fully agree with that, prophetess, because after the COVID, we decline in church. So persons are no longer even having church. So I agree with that. But I agree with that halfway. Because majority of churches are no longer even having church. And I believe because the decline in not having churches and family structures and teaching on it is why the decline in all the divorces, all the traumas, all the hurt, all the adultery, because now we are on Zoom now and we're no longer in the church building.
I'm gonna disagree with that. I'm gonna disagree with that. I think back to what we're I think is that we have to become more practical in our teaching.
I think you are right, because you see, when you don't arm people with what they need to live effective everyday lives. Wait a minute. No, you must. Because you cannot have tired families and when they go home all they do is bicker argue, and they're tired, and they both go either turn away from each other and sleep, or in some or somewhere different.
Over money. They're not really rowing over
No, they run over everything.
Okay.
They run because there's no intimacy between them.
Absolutely.
There's no intimacy.
That's because there's so much adultery going on.
It goes back to the body of Christ teaching. We have to begin to teach.
Well, I agree.
Absolutely.
Yes, most certainly. We have to, again, I use that word, we have to become practical and train and teach people not just what marriage is all about, but how to be effective in their marriage, how to stay in their marriage.
Absolutely.
That's where the church now has to become. We got to get to that point now where we teach people how to stay in their marriages. And we have to be examples. Those of us who are leaders, fivefold ministry leaders, we have to be examples. I say this in particular. Somebody told me, a friend of mine who lives in the United States, she said her pastor's been married 3 times. I said, honey, I don't blame him. I blame you because you are still in the church. And so therefore, we have to make our leaders accountable. You could make a mistake once, and you shouldn't make it twice, but you can make it once. But buddy, when you done move on to the 3rd and the 4th marriage, honey, you need some counseling. You don't need another marriage. And so therefore the church has to get to the point now where we begin to train people how to live in this world.
I agree.
We have to train them how to be productive citizens.
I agree.
And how to be effective Christians. There's so much training that needs to happen in the body of Christ.
And how to be effective wives.
But
That's the only way you can have healthy families.
And I find that even those who are even married are not pushing marriage. And this is where my concern comes in, is those who are pushing marriage, who are married, don't push marriage.
Well, I wouldn't say all of them.
No, but some of them.
Yeah, and those ones who are not pushing marriage, they're basically the ones who have ineffective marriages.
Okay, but they don't push it. So if we can push the first family, then we'll see better homes. We'll see better men, better women. We won't see all this murders and all this hurt. And a lot of fathers are dysfunctional, so their children are murderers, having a murdering spirit. So we must target the family.
We've got to go back to the family. And the nucleus of the family starts with the husband and the wife.
Absolutely.
Not the children.
It is absolutely urgent because, as we saw, the statistics now prove that the Bahamas must get back in alignment when it comes to the family, because other than that, we will lose the country eventually if we're not producing or reproducing rather. So I thank you both very, very much. It's certainly a discussion that'll continue as we continue to dissect this 2022 census. Ladies, I thank you. I thank you. We must.
Then we're gonna have to start teaching French in every school, government and private.
We already teach. Anyway, thank you so much, pastors. Thank you very much to Leslie Miller and Glenroy Pratt. And I want to thank all of you this evening for tuning in. We certainly enjoyed having you along, and we look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.